Hello and welcome to this exclusive series of the Amazon podcast with me, Chris Stafford. Exclusive because we're going to do a special series here with Marci Kornegay. If any of you listened to a previous show that we did recently, Marci and I did a very long bike ride, but this was all good preparation for her to take on her next hike, which is the Pacific Crest Trail, which she began just over a week ago. And we're catching up with her at our first real overnight stop in I think in a proper bed in Idyllwild, California, having endured the California desert. Marci, how are you feeling?
Hey, Chris. Happy to be here, and I'm feeling pretty good considering the conditions that we've been through in the last 7 or 8 days. Well, I guess about 8 days now. And just sort of finally had a chance to catch my breath and sort of evaluate I guess my wins and losses and how my body feels and how it's adapting to these completely different conditions that are the Southern California desert. Being from the East Coast, I'm not used to the dry, arid desert, the intense sunshine, and a lot of the elevation changes. So yeah, doing pretty good, I could say.
Good for you. And I know you had a good night's rest. But just let's rewind a little bit and explain to everybody when you started, the day you started, where that start was, and what kind of mileage you're doing every day, and the kind of elevation gains, that kind of thing. Give everybody a picture of what this looks like at the start of this 2,650-mile Pacific Crest Trail from California to the Canadian border. So begin at the beginning, Marci, if you would.
Yeah. So I was able to fly out to San Diego last Wednesday. That was May the 11th, and do a little bit of resupply, some adjusting, and then get out to the trail terminus. That's the southern terminus of the PCT in Campo, California. I was able to get a shuttle. They sort of released us into the wild. We take our epic pictures at the border wall. I stuck my hand through the fence and touched the air and the ground of Mexico, and was underway on that Thursday evening about 5 o'clock. Out here in California right now, it starts getting dark about 8 o'clock. So I know that I wanted to be able to get to a campsite as soon as possible and not spend my first night hiking until I got kind of used to the trail conditions and things like that. So I hiked out about 7 miles on my first day. That got me to a campsite in a really good position to be able to tackle some of the early elevation changes. Early on, started seeing, really what the desert was all about. I'd never desert hiked before, and it's completely different. You get up into some of the higher mountain passes, and the wind starts whipping. And so you're dealing with some wind elements plus the intense sunshine. There's no clouds. There's no moisture in the air. And then all of a sudden I'm wondering, how do I have enough water? And am I going to be able to swallow complete like cotton mouth feel? And you slow down long enough. You look at these expansive views, and I'm seeing all these desert flowers and cacti and, just completely different surroundings. So I started out strong, jumping in 7 miles in just under 3 hours, spent my first night out, felt good. The second, third, fourth day, I started running into a couple of people, knowing that I wasn't the only one out there, which is sort of reassuring. And really just started feeling like I was getting my trail legs after 3 or 4 days, and starting to understand how much water I was going to need to be able to carry, because there's so many drought areas where there's not enough water. And, that's an extra load. I could probably drink close to 10 liters of water a day. And, each liter of water is going to weigh your pack down an additional 2 pounds. So that was something definitely I needed to consider and manage that a little bit more properly. But yeah, getting started this past week is really all about filling out what's going to work, what doesn't work, calculating what can my body do, what can it do, and just sort of adjusting to all the different, the different surroundings and the different variables that are out here.
So how many miles have you done today? It's Sunday, May 22nd, as we are recording. And as I said, you're taking a break before you get back on the trail this afternoon. But you've been out there now just over a week from Thursday. How many miles total? And give us some idea of the elevation gains that you've been through, because there's like some serious climbing up and down verticals.
Yeah, I try not to get too in my head about, staring at the map and thinking about the elevation until it's done, because I know that's kind of mindset I've got to have. But yeah, I'm sitting right now in Idyllwild, California, and a nice little lodge with all the comforts of home, at mile marker 179, like 180. We'll call it 180. And so that's 180 miles over the past week. So I'm averaging about roughly 20 to 21 miles a day. I've had 2 really big mileage days for me. That's 26 miles a day. And that's going over elevation where I might have, a 4 to 5,000 foot elevation gain. And then, I earned some of that back on some downhill. But I'm still netting 2,000 to 3,000 feet in elevation per day for the most part. Usually I try to camp somewhere high just to keep away from the condensation levels. And there's nothing worse than waking up with a wet tent. So try to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I mean, just as far as the elevation, it's, hiking, I guess the only thing that I can compare it to is hiking out in the east. You go up and over mountains, but you're gaining anywhere from 500 to 1,000 feet in elevation, but you go straight back down. Out here, so far, what I've experienced is you go up, and you might be going up for like 18 or 20 miles. And then all of a sudden you're at like 6,000 feet. And then you get to enjoy that for a little bit. They give you a chance to like soak in all the views, and then you start making a full-on descent. And you know that with every descent comes another ascent. And so those are the things that I always keep in my mind. But yeah, I really try not to get too nerdy about the technical elevation gain. I know it's out there. I know that there's going to be a lot more, especially when we enter, the Northern California region, the Sierra. It's going to be much more intense. So I think this is a great way to get prepared for what's to come on the trail.
And you said you've never done desert hiking like this before, but just to remind everybody, you have hiked the AT alone, you are hiking the PCT alone, and you've done a lot of other hikes in between, big hikes. So what's the best preparation that you've had? I know we mentioned the bike ride, Marci, that you and I did, and that has helped you too in your preparation, because you didn't wear your feet out doing hike preparation.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that I've learned through my progression of hiking these different trails is that you can't set out and practice in the way, I mean, I'm a former golf coach. So, you go out and you practice and you prepare for competition the way that you would compete. This is completely different to me. And you've got to prepare in ways that you're not going to overuse your body. So if I'm going to go out for a long, 2,700 mile walk, I'm not going to prepare by walking, because that's just adding more miles to the same muscles over and over again. And that was something I learned on the AT. I got ready for the AT by taking additional hikes, and I was worn out by the time I even reached the AT. So that was a grind. But so what I think probably one of the biggest things that I learned was that when we went on that bike ride, along the Potomac Heritage Trail that we've talked about in previous episodes, is that I was using a different muscle set. I'm using the same muscles, but these quads for biking, I mean, they were just like power used. I mean, just forced out of its comfort zone completely. And getting back home, recovering that, and doing some more like strength exercises, squats, lifts, some balance exercises, a lot of lower body work like that. It's been really, really beneficial. And I haven't had any issues with any of my lower body parts, since I've started this hike. And I'm really, really lucky. Some of the other hikers that I've passed are dealing with, sore knees and IT band issues and ankle issues, but I feel really, really prepared and feel good about that. I think one of the things that have kind of come to my attention is making sure that foot care stays really, really paramount on the hygiene list. You got to make sure you've got clean feet. I've suffered some severe blistering, and a lot of it might be a little bit of. I changed my shoes 70 miles in just to get more cushion because of all the desert rocks and the undulations and stuff of the trail. But I did that, so I don't know if that was a poor move. I mean, every day you learn something new. And that's something that I'm just going to have to deal with. But I've experienced these really deep blisters under some really ugly calloused feet. And it's a different sensation when you're walking and pounding with an additional 30 pounds on your back with your backpack. That can put a lot of stress on different parts of your body that you're not used to. And for me, it's been my feet and the blistering, and hoping to stay away from some infection. I hate to put it out there in the universe, but it's real. And I just got to make sure I keep my feet clean and monitor those and make sure that those blisters are hardening and getting better.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about the hydration, because that's super important, knowing how much water you need to carry, enough but not too much, but also the nutrition and the essential nutrition that you need, which may be different to what you were training with, preparing for. Talk a little bit about that and how your body has adjusted, because we know the body behaves differently when it's, the difference between training and actually doing the hike or the bike ride. So talk us through that, Marci, and how your experiences have been and how you've had to adjust.
Yeah, I thought that I could just hit the ground running and everything would be fun, and I could, sip my water along the way. And then I'm completely fooled. Everything I thought that I knew about what I was going to be getting into, I've learned. I'm completely wrong, and I've got to reconfigure the way I think about things. I know that hydration is really, really important the day before. So what I do today is really going to be more effective 6 to 12 hours down the line. So if I can chug tons of water today, that's going to be beneficial whenever I start hiking out later on this afternoon and into the morning. I've been fortunate that I have been able to hydrate and drink enough, knowing that I would be in that situation. I didn't want to get to the point where heat exhaustion or dehydration was going to be an issue. That's just a bad feeling if you've ever felt that. And then it's amplified when you're by yourself in the middle of nowhere on a desert floor, and it feels like 95 degrees out there. And so I knew that I wanted to stay away from that. So I've been doing nothing but drinking plenty of water, using a lot of electrolytes at different times during the day, just sipping on that, and then also having as much water as I can. In the desert, there's water sources, but they're not natural water sources. Some of them are pumped springs that go through like a cow trough. So you're drinking the same water that comes from a cow trough, and thank goodness for filtering, mechanisms and things like that. But it's amazing. You're sitting there at this green water source and knowing that a cow's tongue been in this water, and you're filtering it and you're thinking, okay, I spent $30 on this water filter, and that's the only thing that's going to save my life right now. That is the one thing that's keeping me away from, 10 days of giardia or something. And in a complete disaster, you just don't want to deal with any bad water. But yeah, I mean, you filter and then you just chug as much water as you can possibly chug. And then you pack it out. And I tend to pack out close to 4 liters out of every water source. So that's an additional 8 pounds to my pack until it disappears. But there are, anywhere from 18 to 23 mile carries where there's no water. And so you're forced and you're limited to ration yourself and be really smart about how much water and when you drink it. And the way that I've kind of done my meals and my nutrition intake is that I've decided not to cook any of my meals. So that doesn't require any additional water for boiling and making hot meals. I'm going to wait and see how the desert plays out, or maybe get my stove in a couple of weeks, maybe another month. But right now I'm just eating dry meals. So that consists of, well, it should, let me rephrase that. It should consist of like tortillas and tuna packages and peanut butters and things like that. But I've really, to be honest with you, Chris, have struggled eating in the desert. And I think a lot of it is just my body's adjusting to something completely different. It's the heat. My body's like, I can't swallow it. I can't digest. I try to force it, but at the same time, if my body doesn't want to eat it, then I'm not going to make it. I'll just do little nibbles here and there, just enough to keep me alert and awake and with enough energy to get to the next place, and let that be an issue for whenever I get to the next place that I can sit down and try to eat again.
And of course, your daily routine is different, adjusting for the heat. And you told me that you're getting up at 4 a.m. and getting out on the trail within 30 minutes so that you can get some miles done before you have a little bit of a siesta and then go back out until it gets dark. Talk a little bit about what that looks like, Mars. I mean, because obviously it's different every day, but how's your body adjusting to that? Yeah,
I quite like it. It's not so bad. It's a great way to break up the day. So yeah, it's a typical day. I'm starting to get into a routine where it's pretty standard practice right now for me to set the alarm for 4 a.m. I'm really quick with my routine in the morning. I've got my tent and my sleeping bag and my air mattress and all these things that I got to do in the morning. So, I get that all cleaned up, and I'm on trail by 4:30. And that whole time that I'm doing all my chores, I'm trying to drink as much water as I can, knowing that I've still got to ration my water until the next water source. But once I get on trail, that's the coolest time to hike is early morning. And that's just as the sun's starting to come up around 5 a.m. And it's gorgeous. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've had a full moon. And so we've had quite the night light for the last week. And the moon is starting to fade now. But, waking up to moonlight and being able to hike out in the dark and then watch the sun come up, it's incredible. There's a lot of time for gratitude. I think about all the things that I'm so grateful for. My body's being able to do this. I'm able to appreciate it. I want to do it. I love the challenge. All those types of things, they enter and flood my mind and kind of set me up for a good day. And then pretty regularly, I'm learning that as soon as the sun starts getting through the haze, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, it's hot. It's brutal. And it feels like noon. At that point. So I push through. I'll hike till about noon or so, and then take a really long lunch break, siesta break. So from 4:30 till noon, I'm hiking hard, trying to get as many miles in. That's usually about 15 miles. Majority of my miles come from that time. And then sort of do my best to find as much shade or shelter in the desert. Sometimes it can be a little difficult. Sometimes it might just be behind a cactus, keeping an eye out for rattlesnakes. But that lasts for a couple of hours just to relax. And then I'll hit the trail again about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that gives me another 4 to 5 hours of more hiking. And then, try to plan out the elevation where I sort of split it up a little bit, if the best I can, and then roll into camp, usually right around 7:30 to 8 o'clock when the sun starts going down. Now, this past week, I've hiked a couple of really big mileage days, so that's left me night hiking where I didn't get into camp until about 9:30 or 10, where it's completely pitch dark with nothing but stars out. It's gorgeous, but it does make setting up camp just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. And presumably you can fall asleep pretty quickly, can you, when you get to that point in the day, because you've done so much. I mean, you've had such a long day.
Yeah, that'd be the expectation. But yeah, I have a hard time. I lay down and everything just hurts, and I'm very aware of the pain. and after sometimes a little bit of help with some melatonin or like a Advil PM, something, ibuprofen PM component, I'm able to fall asleep, and very aware of every time I turn over, laying on these air mattresses. It's like laying on a potato chip bag. So it's very, very loud. And of course, if you're around other campers, you've got snorers, you've got other potato chip bags near you. Yeah. So there's a lot of rustling around. And then, of course, if you're out there by yourself, every little noise you hear could be danger. But, it's just being so hyper aware that sometimes it's harder for me to fall asleep.
Right, a mountain lion or a rattlesnake looking to cuddle up with you. You had mentioned that because you sent me a picture of the rattlesnake that you did actually come across. Have you come across any more?
Yeah, I'm up to 5 on my rattlesnake count. And
wow.
Yeah. Now, I think the picture I sent you was huge. It was about a 5-foot rattlesnake. And the best I could count was 4, maybe 5 rattles. And it was thick. It looked like he had just eaten lunch. It was sort of scary. I've run across a wild dog that you just never really know what's going to happen there. And then plenty of other snakes, tons of horned lizards. Lizards are everywhere out here. It's insane. And a lot of hummingbirds and just so many different variety of birds. They all want to come and greet you, sing you a song. It's really, really interesting.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I can leave the rattlesnakes. So what do you do if the rattlesnake's on the trail in front of you and just standing up to greet you and say, threatening you to pass, and you need to pass? What do you do?
You let them pass on their own time. Okay. I will say that I suffer, I guess, from single-sided deafness, and so I've got complete hearing loss in one of my ears, and I can only hear out of my left ear, and I very rarely will I listen to music or listen to my headphones or anything while I hike. I do enjoy hiking without being plugged in. And very occasionally, it's happened twice so far. I'm sure it'll happen again, but I'll hear a rattle. And as I'm walking, I stop. And with just my single-sided deafness, I never know where those rattles are coming from. So usually people stop and they look exactly where they hear it from. But I don't know, my direction and hearing. So I'm looking around, turning circles with the pack on, like, where's this rattle coming from? And sure enough, it might be curled up and just, threatened and hissing at me from a tree. Right off the trail or something like that. Well, from like not from like hanging from a tree, but like the basin of a tree, kind of curled up, sitting. Okay. And by tree, I mean shrub, desert brush. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So it's sort of scary. There's a little bit of a safety concern out there for that, but they're everywhere, and I don't really care for them. No. They're sort of gross. It does. Yeah.
Well, what about mountain lions?
People say they're mountain lion out here. I haven't seen any. I've seen a picture of somebody who took the tracks of one in the dirt, but I haven't seen one.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep the danger down to a minimum, and hopefully you won't see one. Yeah. All right. Well, what's next then, Marci? You're in Idyllwild, California, and just for those who are not familiar with that part of the world, it is slightly southeast of LA in the desert. So you're going to be heading, looking at the trail somewhat north, and then you head due west, don't you, before you do a bit of a dogleg above LA, and then you get closer to the coast and head north again, which hopefully you'll benefit from. I don't know if you'll be close enough for sea breezes exactly, but shouldn't it give you a little bit cooler air at all, being closer to the coast?
Yeah, I know that there are tons of wind. Oh my goodness. What do you call those?
The Santa Anita winds?
No, the wind turbines and things like that. There's wind turbine farms. So I know that there's quite the winds that go through there along the LA aqueduct, which I'll be traveling along that for several miles. I really don't know what to expect. I'm just out here walking. I will say that ending up in Idyllwild was one of the coolest experiences yesterday. Made it in time just to be able to get together with the community of Idyllwild and celebrate the mayor's 9th birthday. And the mayor is a dog. And it's one of those things. It's like in an unincorporated town in California, you have a dog mayor, and they celebrate the dog's birthday every year. And we made it just in time for that yesterday. So really special. So free cake and fruit for everybody. It was amazing.
That's fantastic. And a photo opportunity with the mayor.
Absolutely. Yeah. Complete golden retriever with a tie. Yeah.
What was his name?
Max the mayor.
Max the mayor. Okay, well, that's memorable. That one for the journal or the book. Are you thinking about, somebody asked me this, actually, if you're thinking about writing a book after this, Marci?
I think that there would be enough content to have a few interesting pages. Maybe somebody might read it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is only one of your many trails. So do you have any goals now, Marci? Now, say over the next week, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up with you in a week or so, what those goals might look like in terms of estimated mileage?
Yeah, I mean, as far as those types of goals, I'm looking at probably 20 miles a day. On average. If I can keep that up, I'll be happy to get to Big Bear City in 4 days. About 4.5 days. That would be another opportunity for a possible shower and some laundry, which is always appreciated after a long week in the desert. It's a dusty place. To be quite frank, I stink. So I've worked hard. I need a shower. But they are few and far between, but much appreciated when they do happen. So that would be my mileage goals. And then I think some personal goals is for me to slow down long enough and really enjoy being out there. I feel like it's such a job sometimes, to get up and you hike. And you have to get to where you need to be at night in order to feel like you've made a successful mileage day. And I hope that I'm going to be able to, as I get stronger, and a better hiker, and maintaining my breathing and things like that I'll enjoy being out there a lot more, and it'd be less like a job. I'll be able to see the views and just have some thoughts and complete sentences, instead of just chaos in my head all the time. So I think, I think that'll be really good for me, to really put it all together and enjoy myself.
Yeah, well, I hope you do. And what an adventure it is, Marci. And I think if we can catch up with you in about a week's time, something like that, obviously depends where you are, but you'll be stopping for another shower and a good night's rest and refuel and replenish your stocks and so on, and stay sound, my friend. I mean, that's important, right? You've got to stay fit and healthy, and hopefully the feet will take the strain. That's the plan, my friend. Just one step at a time. The greatest journeys start with a single footstep. So here we are. Yeah. There you are. Well, proud of you as always, my friend. And you take care out there. We'll catch up with you just down the trail, right? And continue the story. Let's do it. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you. And if you'd like to follow Marci on this journey, you can do so on her Instagram accounts. That's Blonde Bear Hikes, BLONDE BEAR HIKES, Blonde Bear Hikes, or at Marci_Kornegay. There'll be a link in the show notes with this episode to her Instagram account. And we'll be back with another episode just down the trail, probably in about a week's time, depending on where Marci is and if she has good internet connection. So do join us again and follow this all the way on the Pacific Crest Trail, 2,650 miles from the Mexican border to the Canadian border, which is going to take her about 4 months. So there'll be hopefully a lot of episodes along the way. And of course, you can follow us at Wisp Sports on social media. So until the next time, thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.